Nintendo Switch.
Hello and welcome to the Just Minute the Castle podcast. I'm your host Matt, and with me this week here is Eli.
Hello, I am here.
And Unoclay.
I'm eating my Halloween
Hurry up with
candy
your
tonight.
I want to talk about the Switch.
He's filling in for Mike this week, just eating on the podcast. I'm still sick, so I'm still going to be coughing. Apologies. Anyway, instead of what we've been playing, let's just get right into the Switch, especially since Eli has to leave in a timely fashion. So, Nintendo finally announced the NX, and it's now called the Switch. And it's been getting quite a bit of attention, even though it wasn't shown off at any event or anything like that. The trailer's got like 10 million views in 24 hours. It's now past 18 million. It's surpassed the Breath of the Wild trailer, which was interesting. It was their most viewed video on their channel, and that was around E3, and this is like not even related, so interesting. It's still a console, so it was gonna get like a lot anyway, but still, it's their highest viewed channel. But anyway, I think we'll tackle this in bits. I guess initial impressions. How do you guys feel about this?
So, I watched the trailer.
I want to hear you laugh.
Well, I've been tweeting about it a little bit, and so I watched the trailer. And for a Nintendo fan, it's great. Like, I'll buy it. I'll love it. 10 million other people will buy it. At least, hopefully. But, my concern lies with kind of the appeal outside of, just kind of the same problems the Wii U had. Like, people are looking at this thing thinking it's, like, different from the Wii U and has this whole sort of, possible future behind it. And then you go and look back at the Wii U and you notice that reception for that was actually, when it was first announced, not bad. I went and I wrote an article about what analysts thought about the Wii U back when it was first announced, and people thought it would sell, 70, 80 million units. So I'm skeptical of this thing. I want to learn more. Like, they announced just enough to the point where I have 100 million questions about whether this thing is going to be a success or not. Like, we learned nothing in terms of the power, in terms of the game support farther on. We learned nothing about the breadth of the third-party support. This all I'm sure we'll come back to and talk about more. Nothing about their network features, nothing about
anything
their
really. And even after the investors meeting was today, and they still announced like nothing. Like they basically said, well, before the investors meeting, they said no other details until next year. And I thought they would have said at least a little bit of something at the investors meeting, but they didn't really say too much other than by this time or by the end of March we want to push out 2 million units or blah blah blah. Basically, no information.
And there was an
misunderstood the
interesting.
meaning of the word nothing.
There was an interesting.
Substantial.
Yeah. Well, there was an interesting tweet. First of all, we can also talk about their strategy, because I think the strategy is okay in terms of how they're releasing information. That's not my problem. It's interesting. So I saw a tweet that said 2 million sales expectations tells us nothing, because if the Switch launches on March 25th and it sells 2 million by the end of the month, that's really great. But if it launches March 1st, then that's a whole different story, and sets it on a different trajectory. So I thought that was interesting, an interesting way to look at it. But what about you, Clay?
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm cautiously optimistic. I have reservations. I don't want to jump ahead into kind of like too much we're talking about, since we're sort of just giving initial thoughts or whatever. I have reservations, some that are probably similar to you guys and the greater audience out there. But overall, since it is what we, I guess, wanted it to be, that's like almost a question, but I mean, it is. I was on board with the idea of it being the unifying system, the hybrid that it ended up exactly being. So reservations aside, it is what I generally kind of want, assuming the power under the hood is good, that kind of stuff. So, as far as like reception in the larger audience that you guys are already like pointing at, like, is it going to be the turnaround, that Nintendo needs at this point? I don't know. I feel like I'm not qualified to say, because I think the market's a tough market, and it's pretty hard to see what kind of spaghetti sticks on the wall these days, from different things. And I'm sometimes surprised by the kind of things that make big splashes, out there. Like when like I'm always caught off guard by things that I think aren't going to be big hits, and then you have that feeling of like Grandpa Simpson, like, I used to know what was hip, and then hip went and got changed and got scary, and I feel like that a lot, that I'm like, I don't know. I don't get why people want these dang devices that do these dang things when they already have a Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and a GameCube. Like, what more do they want, people? And then they're like, they want these new things. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it so far, though. What we've seen, it seems good. It seems promising.
Yeah, I think some of the reactions, I think this is going to be like a huge success. I think not only are those reactions too early, but I think they're a little too optimistic. And in terms of, like, we're looking at the market, like you're talking about hip and what's not hip, like people are saying, well, this is going to be great because handhelds for Nintendo have always done so well. People will buy the handheld, and then those that want the, it'll be combined software, it'll be great. But if you look at the trajectory of the sales of their handhelds, the 3DS sold half of what the DS did. And then if you look at those numbers even further, by the time that X launches, the 3DS is going to be out for 6 years. Came out in March 2011. And the first 3 years of the 3DS are far and away much, much better than the final 3 years of the 3DS in terms of sales. I think that people are severely misjudging the market. I think that a handheld console today, not that it can't succeed, but is going to have a lot more trouble succeeding than the 3DS did in 2011 before iPads were massive. And smartphones were as prominent as they are today. Not that they weren't then.
I mean, like, think about the fact that, like, just the thing that you're saying, which you obviously know, but of course a system in its second half of its lifespan isn't going to sell nearly as well as in its first half.
Yeah,
but
that's totally true. But the drop-offs that we've seen have been substantial, and the amount of software bought for the systems, like the attach rate is lower. And you look at DS, and you're like, DS was a casual system. Lots of casual people, gamers bought the system. So that means its attach rate, the number of games per console, will probably be lower because casual gamers don't buy as many games. And then you go look at the 3DS, and you're like, wow, the 3DS actually has a lower attach rate than the DS does. Okay, so not only do the systems sell less, but people are buying less games for it. So
true.
So once again, I don't want people to think that I'm down on the Switch. I'd like to think Nintendo learned from their mistakes, and maybe they did. Maybe this is going to be fine, but we didn't learn enough to where they've put my worries at ease. And just me being, when the Wii U was announced, I was actually super excited. I was one of those kids that was actually, so that was five years ago. I was 14 years old, and I saw that, and all my friends, I just bought a 360 like 2 years before that. My friends had 360s. They were playing Call of Duty and everything, and they showed the reel with the third-party games, and you had Batman, and you had Assassin's Creed, and you had Call of Duty, and Splinter Cell, and Darksiders all in one trailer, and I flipped out. I thought this was it. I thought this was going to be the console that combined hardcore and casual gaming. I was sold. I was, it's kind of delusional that I'm looking at back at now, but that's the way I looked at the console. So from there on forth, I have to be very much less forgiving in the way these console announcements go, because I was so wrong last time that I'm still very uneasy.
Yeah. I do want to point out a couple of things I think they did get right. So as far as marketing is concerned, I think they pretty much nailed it. It's very clear what this thing does. It's not like the Wii U at all, where it's kind of confusing. It's very straightforward and in your face. This plays at home and on the go, so that's very clear. The name is very clear as to what it does. so good on them for actually getting marketing right. There's, as a lot of people have pointed out, there's no kids. It's mostly like adults or millennials or whatever you want to call them, people in their 20s and 30s. So it seems that they know their audience, or at least I'm pretty sure those are the main people who buy Nintendo systems anyway. But also the controllers are, I think they're proper. The face buttons are above the joystick. I'm really happy about that because it's just a more natural button placement, like where your hand rests and all that. So I think they got, as far as the video goes, like a lot of that right, which is good because that was like the main problem with the Wii U. Like they just didn't, the marketing was so confusing for the average person to just see at a glance that it was part of the death knell of that system. Whereas this is just like, you show any random person like this trailer and it's like, okay, I can easily understand what this thing is. So
there's the factor that like when you guys bring up the fact that the ads are aimed at like the age group they're showing is not little kids, but they were trying to show, comically that I'm like, me and my friends are laughing at how cheesy it is. Like the dudes on the basketball court, the homeboys getting down after the game, playing some basketball on their screens. Yeah. But like you're saying, then there's the like not subtle, but not in your face, like, hey, we're going to color the system retro for the people that like are our hardest core, that are like, we want the NES colors, this isn't black. This isn't white. This isn't, I don't know. It's not screamingly like, it's not decaled like to look like an NES or something like that, but it's the colors of like an NES kind of like color set that I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. I had to admit, I was like, I wonder how many people will catch that and how that'll play in the marketing to like the people that are trying to bring back the lapsed gamers, so to speak, that are the guys that like all my friends that are going to buy the NES Mini because they're like, I miss Nintendo, but they really just want to play Zelda. That's it. That's really what they want. They want to play Mario and Zelda, and they're going to go buy an NES Classic. So like, or excuse me, NES Mini. So they're like, when I saw those colors, I thought, oh, that. Trying to remind people, you're like, yo, we're still Nintendo, bro. It's like your Game Boy. You remember that? Game Boy was sweet. Buy this new thing, So I like that. I see where they're going with that. The kids won't get it, but who gives a crap about them? Their parents will buy it for them.
I don't know if the color is really like referencing the NES too much. I actually think, like, just looking at it, looks like a production model. Like, it doesn't look finished. Like, the Pro Controller is somewhat see-through, and I don't know, just something about the texture and the color makes it look like we filmed this like 6 months ago, sort of thing. I don't know. It doesn't look finalized to me. It looks like
colors aren't staying. You think? Oh, really? Because I'm thinking those are. I think the gray.
Like, it just looks like a gray.
The gray is harkening back to like a NES. That it's like it's the gray box that sat under your TV and still does if you're true fan. And that. I don't know. I hear I know it's not a perfect match, but it's something I see that I feel like, why did you choose that color? When black is what everybody wants. You just want black system every time. So I thought I was seeing something there, but who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah, I felt the marketing I think their marketing strategy is fine. A lot of people are concerned that we don't have a lot more information. I kind of complain about that. So, it's kind of like, what do you really want? But, I think it's wise to withhold information through the holiday. I think the presidential election coupled with just the holiday season drowns out any sort of new information you can put out. So I think it's wise to hold the cards close to the chest because you start putting out news like the price, the specs, games, and then actual paid advertising in January, February. I think that's going to be far more effective than doing that in November and it just getting lost in the sea of everything else. So
yeah, that's true.
I think that was a really smart choice.
I think it's just unfortunate that they're launching in March, though. It's like,
well, I mean, the 3DS launched in March and was fine. So I don't think a March launch, and also it'll give them time. I think it'll be a good idea to switch marketing strategies to where January, February they can concentrate on the hardcore gamer, getting them to buy this console, adopting it, playing Zelda, getting off to a good start, and then they can spend the rest of the year preparing those people that already bought the Switch, and then they're marketing for the holiday season when families and kids are going to invest. So I think it's fine. And I think it's actually wise, because the hardcore gamers that buy up the console will be able to spread the word about it. I don't think that's a bad move. And they'll have a holiday season too, and that'll boost their sales 6 months after the console launches, which will make it look better. They won't just have the initial boost at the beginning.
Yeah.
So, and also about their trailer, like same sort of line of thinking. They didn't have any kids in the trailer. Obviously, it's for gamers. And you know, Nintendo gamers that may have skipped the Wii U but have a history with Nintendo. The kids will come, you know, I'm sure February, and then to a larger extent next fall, we will have a lot more ads with kids in them. It's just you don't need to have those right now, because a kid probably won't have $300 to drop in March.
Yeah. I forget, did Nintendo show off the Wii U Pro Controller, like, around the time it was launching? Because I don't recall it being too long after the system came out. Like, I remember that being around then.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was shown off for Zombie U, right? Like, that was a thing.
Oh, right, yeah, they had bundles.
Wait, are you sure?
I think
No,
they
you
bundled
can't.
it. No, not
You can
Zombie.
play
Maybe
without
not
the
Zombie.
tablet. You have to play Zombie U on the tablet, I
Yeah.
think.
Oh, yeah.
But I think they did bundle the Pro
I have-
Controller with something around the launch. Anyway.
Well, I think it was pretty close to the launch, if not at launch. I can't remember. I think I only got one for like a present, like for my birthday after it'd been out a while. So I'm not sure myself, but yeah, I'm glad. You know, well, that we're going to get into the things we're worried about, I'm sure, at some point. But that Pro Controller, it's not going to be in the box. Let's all deal with it now.
Oh yeah, it was never going to be in the box.
It's not even something I need to bitch about. It's not going to be there. I'm going to hear it from my friends enough, like, that I game with. They're like, why did I have to buy it? It's because that's how it is. Like, that's the answer. Or, like, you got to buy the Pro Controller separate, and it's going to be $40 friggin', and you're going to have to shell out for another peripheral, and that's the way it goes.
But the weird thing is they said they were contemplating whether to put the Joy-Con grip in it, which is where you take the two detachable controllers and put it in, like, this plastic shell. Like, yes, put that in there. That would be stupid if you don't. Just, it probably costs like $10 to manufacture. Don't not put it in there. I mean, like, unfortunately, it looks kind of derpy when you put it on like a box, because like as a lot of people have seen, someone made a sad puppy dog plush with it. It's kind of turned into a meme. But you know, not having that basic controller in there wouldn't be stupid. But I guess that kind of segues into these detachable controller things. And some people are kind of concerned, like, oh man, these things are too small and blah, 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 blah. It wouldn't be really comfortable. I don't think as far as I'm concerned, they're not supposed to be like main controllers you use for multiplayer. It's just that because this is kind of a singular system, it has the added benefit of being multiplayer. So, I don't have to go out and, you know, tug around another extra controller or lug around an extra controller or buy an extra one. I have them built in. Here, I'll pass you one. But
the Joy-Cons,
I think that's really what it's for.
The Joy-Cons are when you're on the basketball court, guys. That's what when you're chilling on the court with your bros.
Hey,
that's
buddy,
what you need a con.
Put down the rock and pick up a con. So
Put
bad.
down the rock, brother.
But
all right.
I think that's all it's really for. Like, just here, we're Nintendo and we like multiplayer. We don't have any other controllers with this, but you can use this.
And to me, you know, I have to be honest, it feels a little bit like them. How do I put this? It feels like Nintendo has trouble letting go of ideas they love. And the Wiimotes, they adore their friggin' Wiimotes. Like, sure, it was a revolution. It's not, there's no question. It's no question. But it's like a guy who's like a little insecure about his manhood, if you dig it. Like, they can't let go of how important it was. Cause like, if you're playing like games in, like on your 3DS, like the Street Pass games, like every single one of them works the Wiimote in there somewhere. Like it's a weapon in the zombie game and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's all over the place. They love to brand it and hit you over the head with it. It's like, yeah, we invented the Wiimote. And I feel like it's like, they had to figure out a way to put Wiimotes in this thing. They were just like, not only do they need it for the backwards compatibility for stuff, and guaranteed one of those is going to have an IR sensor on the top of it, like has been speculated by many people. But I mean, it's also like they don't want to let it go. It's like we got to carry it on. It's a part of Nintendo now, and it's gonna die a slow death. It's you can see hints of the GameCube controller in there, which is a good thing. When you look at the sad puppy dog like unified unit, there's like the way the handles stick out on the side. There's a little bit of the N64 controller in there and the GameCube controller in there, and the appearance of it when it's fully Voltron united. And then you see the Wiimotes sitting right there. It's good marketing, in a way. And at the same time, I feel like there's this little bit of them that's like, no, it was a good idea. We're still doing it. Even if you're sick of Wiimotes, we're still putting them in there.
I forget what I was going to say.
Well, that's it from me.
Eli, why don't you talk while I try to remember what the heck I wanted to say?
I mean, we're talking about, I think, I don't know, looking at the trailer, we can return to maybe some of the scenarios and stuff. You talked about the Wiimotes. I don't think it's realistic to expect the console is going to be used the way that it was advertised. I think that for me personally, I will probably use it as a home console, 80%, 90% of the time. And then maybe 10 to 20% of the time when on a road trip or a plane, that is if it does not die, I will probably use it as a handheld. What about you guys? Do you really imagine yourselves tugging this thing around as much as, say, a 3DS?
Wait, let me get this straight. You're not going to prop up your little tiny screen inside your Volkswagen bus on a road trip with your bros and play Mario Kart inside a Volkswagen bus driving across the country with your tiny little Joy-Cons. You're not going to, dude, that's the only reason I'm buying this.
No. Well,
you are Mr. Road Trip, Udo.
I love a good road trip.
They've got so many different uses, I'm sure. They've really captured a large swath of the audience.
That commercial, the trailer is just so funny. I couldn't stop laughing about it because it's so corny, and I feel like they know in a way. But then I always wonder, I'm like, wait, are they serious? Like, it's so blunt, it's so ham-fisted, as we say. Like, it's like the way the woman looks across she looks out her window and looks over to the other roof, and then she sees the people like over on the other roof, and it's like, oh look, Mario can jump from roof to roof too, and I can jump from roof to roof with my gamepad, and it's like, it's like I'm like Mario with my system. Whoa, my mind is blowing, I like it. I'm not making fun of them entirely, but it's like so corny on some level that I'm just dying over the marketing there. But yeah, I don't know, like I'm gonna play it like this is great, man. Like, I mean, the unification. I barely play my 3DS when I'm home, and I travel more than a lot of people, so I get the use of my 3DS. But I have such a backlog just between my Wii U and my retro games that like it's a rare day when I sit down and think I should play my 3DS. You know what I should do? I should go sit in the other room with this tiny screen, even though I have an XL, a relatively small screen, and play a video game on a small screen when I could play on a 48-inch TV, or I could play on a regular CRT monitor for my retro games. Like it just doesn't fit into my life, like in a good place. And this is good because if the volume of games that we've become accustomed to, like relatively slow volume, admittedly, from Nintendo, but now that they have third-party support to some degree, the volume of games that come to Wii U and 3DS now are in one channel, on one system that I can kind of move around like that. It's gold, man. It's gold. I won't be neglecting one system or the other. I'm going to regret it, like I've said before, the loss of kind of a separate system, because it's kind of cool to have two different systems. But I'm not going to be neglecting one of them and let it collect dust while I play the other one, and then vice versa, switching back and forth. So, like, yeah, Eli, I'm not going to be propping it up, at my basketball game, because God help me if I ever play basketball again in my life. Like, you should see it. I'm 6'3" and I can't dribble a basketball. It makes for some humorous visuals. But yeah, like am I going to be taking it to people's houses and propping it up and playing on this little screen? No. But something I haven't thought about before is, like, I wonder, can you dock your gamepad, or whatever we're calling it, your Switch, can you dock your Switch on someone else's Switch base station at their house. Like, so can I bring my games to your house, and dock in? That is something I would do. Like, if my buddy has it and I have games he doesn't have, sure, yeah, I'll bring it to your house.
I presume so, because you got
the base is just like basically just an HDMI cable. Like it's just so you can
someone
boot it to the
recommended
screen.
Someone recommended pulling like a PlayStation TV, because what people will do is you can stream from PS4 to PS TV. So what people will do is they'll buy PS TVs for each TV in their house and just stream from their PS4 to the PS TV. So, people are like, maybe you could set up a dock at each of your TVs, and that way you don't have to move it around. You can just plug it in.
Yeah, and that would solve the problem of the, how would you say, the portability of your game library, because if we don't know, as we know, we don't know anything about, is this going to have like access to your library of games from the Wii U? Is this going to have backwards compatibility like to your digital library?
They said no to physical.
Physical game.
I doubt.
They have
digital.
not touched your library. They have not said a thing because I'm waiting for it.
I
don't think there's.
I doubt digital though, because they said you can't use the thing when it's docked. So when you're at the TV, you only have one screen. So that rules out both 3DS and Wii U, because they both need.
What do you mean? I don't follow. Why? If you have access to the library of the things you bought, and you can download it again to your new system, assuming the compatibility works, assuming the game is compatible with the technology of the Switch, why couldn't I play Guacamelee on my Switch?
Oh,
if I have my library. There's no reason. There's no reason. Like, I mean, that's the answer. There's no reason as long as they allow us it. And that is the biggest question, I think, for the fans who own a Wii U. I think not for the casuals, but for everybody here like us, anybody who would bother to listen to us talking about Nintendo on a podcast like this, I would say that is far and away the battery life, which we've all been hitting at, and we all know is the biggest anvil to drop. What's the battery life on this thing? But like the other big one is like, I have all these digital games? Sure. I don't expect I don't know if Splatoon's going to work the same way, or I'll have to rebuy it. I don't know. That's a little weird because it's, specialized to the Wii U technology. I think they're going to make an effort for that one, so it's probably a bad example. But something else that's like uses the Wii U gamepad, like Zombie U. If you bought Zombie U digitally, they would have to port it over, and then they might have to do some tinkering with a game like that to make it work appropriately, especially if there's no touch screen on the Switch, which we also don't know yet. But like, do my digital games come over? Like, can I re-download them? Because I know personally people are worried about that. Or are you going to pull a Nintendo here and say, nope, you've got to pay us another $1, another $5, whatever, to port over these games that you already bought? I'm
going to say no, because for one, the system isn't really built that way. Like I said, the 3DS and Wii U, even if they don't really use a second screen, like they're still built with that functionality, and for them to get it to run on a Wii U, I don't even know coding-wise if it would be annoying, but just functionality-wise, like they would have to go back and like try to refix the games, and each game is different in how it does and doesn't use it. So I think they're just going to be like, you know what, this is way too much work for something that very few people are going to care for. We're just going to scrap it, start fresh, because we might as well start fresh now.
But then why did they go to the trouble of launching this, like the new Nintendo like ID service and the new Club Nintendo, whatever it's called?
Well, I presume that's for the whatchamacallit. I presume that's for
the whatchamacallit. I didn't even hear about this.
For the new system. I mean, I don't think it relates to the Wii U tracking. I don't think it's really relevant.
I just feel like they were getting something set up there because they have something new coming. And I'm thinking, well, why did you go to the trouble to develop a whole new system, get us all like registered first when we're still on the old system?
Well, just so that we're already...
They have to prepare it. Like, they're not going to be like, day one, here's a new system. And like.
Oh, and I think the biggest thing with mobile, right? I mean, they're preparing mobile. They've got they got Super Mario Run coming before the end of the year. Presumably it'll tie into that.
Yeah, Dina's a publisher on this, so
two other iOS games coming before the Switch launches.
I mean, I grant that there would be some work involved for many games, and I would grant that I am no way proposing this would be universal, because I don't think that's possible. I grant that. But I do not think it's acceptable, and you know me, you guys know me, I'm like the fluffiest fluffer of Nintendo stuff and like tolerant of their nonsense, like, because I just don't care. It's like, charge me whatever, I'm going to buy it. I love your stuff. It's usually worth it. But I don't think it's tolerable if games that could easily work on Wii U, that could work on Switch that were on Wii U, like think Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Why in hangnail, if you have a digital copy of that, couldn't you download it again for free?
But it's a whole different.
They'd have to go game by game and figure, okay, which game does work or doesn't need this screen. We gotta reprogram it. Like,
I think
the emulator mode. They could just do an emulator mode, just like they did for Wii. Like
I don't think they could just
play. It's not that. I think the biggest thing, number one, is the architecture is completely different. Wii U and Wii were both built on AMD technology, and the Wii itself was way less powerful than the Wii U. Even though the Wii U was less powerful than the PS4, but the Wii was on a whole nother level. That was GameCube level. So the idea that not only is the Wii U, the Switch probably pretty comparable, maybe a little more powerful than the Wii U, but also the fact that it's switching from AMD to NVIDIA, which is a completely different architecture right there, one that's based on mobile, as opposed to one that's based on a standard hardware that we're used to.
And so that's why I'm saying emulator. That's why I'm saying emulator. I'm not saying like it's going to be easy or pretty, but that you would have access to your library. Like, I mean, there is an emulator for Wii on your Wii U. Everyone forgets it's there.
Yeah, but the difference is you only had like the one TV screen. This is like you'd have to you'd have to go in and reprogram the game to be like
That's why I'm saying I wouldn't expect it for many games.
There's only a handful that.
There's a ton.
Not a handful,
There's a ton. I bet half the library that's on my Wii U barely uses the second screen, if it uses it at all.
Clay, but here's the
Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze literally doesn't even use it for a menu, as far as I know, but everything else has something, and I still think they would have to go in and rewrite it. Like, there's still, like Eli said, there's different architecture, so there's that you have to worry about. You'd have to.
The more important thing.
There's too much.
The more important thing is, let's say they decided to emulate. And they spent, I don't know, $5 million on the technology to figure out how to do it, and then bringing it over game by game, or whatever it was. Like, are they really going to lose any sales by not having some sort of backwards compatibility? I mean, I don't think so. They're targeting a bigger market than this. I think
it would alienate some people like us, which is the worst thing they could do.
But there's not even many of us to begin with. Like, there's only 10 million Wii U users.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, but we're the 10 million that are the ones who carry the gospel. And I mean, I don't know. I hear what you guys are saying, and I grant there are technological hurdles here, and I grant that they already ruled out backwards compatibility for physical games. But the fact that they didn't say no backwards compatibility, first of all, let's read what they're not saying, they seem that would leave the door open for it, or, granted, you guys could be right and they're just scared to say it. They're or they're working on it. They're testing it. Maybe it's not yes or no. Maybe this isn't a binary choice. Maybe they're where we are right now, testing it out. First of all, they're trying to get the main system running for the new games. And then they've got a part of the department working on so what are we going to do about this back ability? What are we going to do about these people that literally own 20 NES and SNES downloads? And all these simple all the when I say this stuff about there's not a lot of stuff that uses the second screen, I'm basically saying almost every indie game and almost every third party game that's on the eShop, a lot of those games don't use a second screen and would be quick, and if they got an emulator running, which I don't know. I don't know money in R&D costs, but people can make emulators and Nintendo having the tech would be a lot faster than some outsider recreating an emulator for the Wii U. It would be them creating it from their own existing Wii U technology and operating systems. They dump that in there, and then they just go down the list and figure out which games work and like give them to us one by one. Say, okay, not everything's gonna be functional day one, but your digital library from some games you'll be able to port over, depending on the technology. I mean, they did it with Game Boy Advance games. Like you don't get the full library of Game Boy Advance games, but they went to the trouble to make a Game Boy Advance like shell or an emulator or whatever you want to call it, so that you can play some of those games. I don't know. I just don't see them like completely starting fresh, like you guys are saying, like saying nope, forward march, and by the way, you have to pay like full freight.
There's not enough. Those hardcore Wii U supporters were all gonna buy the Switch anyway. They lose nothing from not bringing over anything, and they could still resell games like Splatoon and Mario Kart, which it looks like they're gonna do to make more money. I don't really think they have anything to gain.
I think the fact that they're doing enhanced ports is a reason, like pretty much shows that they're not going to try doing backwards compatibility, because for one, I mean, if they release these games with enhanced ports, like the fans are still going to buy it because there's still a bit of extra something. But I mean, then it puts those games back into the limelight for new customers, because
let me get this straight. You guys think they're going to expect us to pay full freight to buy Splatoon again?
Yes.
You think, like, I want to get you guys on record for that. You think they're going to expect, if I own it on my Wii U already, which I own physical copies, so I could be screwed, and I'll accept that. Like, if that happens, I'll get it. If they give me a good explanation and say, there is no way for us to verify that you own Splatoon, you could have just borrowed someone's copy.
I think even digitally downloaded people are going to pay full price for an X Splatoon.
I think if it's digital, they're probably going to give you some sort of a discount, like with Bayonetta 2. I mean, different game, different scenario, but they still, if you bought one of them, you could get a discount for buying the other. So I think they could give a discount there. Obviously, physical not, because they're just going to say, well,
no way.
Too bad we can't do anything about it.
I have Wind Waker on the GameCube, but I didn't get a discount for the HD version.
Of course, because it wasn't a wired system, though. Like, I hear you. I got Super Mario Brothers coming out my walls over here. You know what I'm saying? But
I mean, they made you rebuy it on the Wii U. And, well, actually, one thing they did do is they gave you a upgrade for $1 if you already had it.
Exactly. That plays the master, which is where I'm at.
I think the retro games, I could see them carrying over. Like, that should be no problem.
That's a little different. But if you wanted the Wii U and 3DS versions, you have to pay separately. It's not a $1 edition. I don't know. I don't think Nintendo's
I think we should kind of move on from this, because we've just kind of been going in a circle.
I've got to leave in 5 minutes, but I think it's an interesting discussion.
I just want to say...
Agree to disagree. We'll leave it at that. All right. Well, we will see. Someone's going to be mad. No, everyone's going to be happy when I'm right. Everyone's going to be happy. It's like when they're like, they give it to you free, and it's like Christmas. They're like, you get all your games. You get all your games on the Switch. It's awesome.
Yeah, right. I just want to say one thing before we move on about how you use the system, whatever. I'm probably going to use it mostly at home, but I might be doing a lot of commuting again, so I might end up using it portably, because I did use my 3DS a lot. Like, when you got an hour commute, it's like, I'm not going to... I get sick of listening to the same music over and over, and I'm not just going to stare out the window, so I'll probably end up bringing it. But one thing that most people probably won't do that I will try is he's in the airport and he takes his detachable controllers out and plays with them, kind of like the Wiimote and Nunchuck. And I actually really like that combo. I thought it was pretty comfortable, just being able to relax your hands. And I'll probably mostly use the Pro Controller at home, but I'll probably try that out for a bit too, just because it was a comfortable feeling. But
that's funny. I will never do that, even though I totally agree it's comfortable. And you know why? Because Clay learned to play Smash Bros. Brawl using that setup, then sucks for the rest of his life at playing Smash Brothers because he
Guys, we have breaking news.
I'm still on learning how to play Smash Brothers, because I spent my first 200 hours playing with the nunchuck Wiimote combo, and I'm still confused about how you can hold the controller. It's embarrassing. I'll never go back to it. I played 300 hours of Strikers with that combo, and I tried to play it a few months ago, and I couldn't even remember how to do it. I'm like, my God. How do you wiggle this thing? You wiggle? Oh, we used to call this waggling. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Guys, breaking news. Presentation for the NX, for Switch is January 12th. They're going to have a full presentation with price.
Oh my gosh. I thought you were gonna make a breaking news joke, like breaking news. Unoclay sucks at
No,
Smash.
I was like, I felt bad, so I just that pinged up here on my chat, and I like yelled it. And I'm like, oh wait, Clay's talking. Let him finish. But yeah, January 12th, there's going to be a live presentation. So it sounds like it's going to be it's going to be an actual media event. It's going to be a press conference. January 12th.
Yeah. Woo!
Oh, yeah,
What
for
I tell you,
invited
I told
media
you,
analysts.
guys, yeah, it's going to include media analysts and trade partners in Tokyo. Who told you that there would be a media conference? I did. I called it.
Oh, it says
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
No, you know what? It says that they will discuss backwards compatibility of all your games, including NES. breaking fake news. Oh man, that's cool. Well, look now everyone's going to know what time we record the podcast at. They're going to figure it out. They're going to know, like, if they know the time this is released. Great. We're stamped.
Awesome.
Nice.
That's good that they said it instead of making us wait for several months to hear something. But anyway, since Eli has to go soon, what do you want to say? I'll give you the floor to say whatever you want to say for a couple of minutes.
So, I mean, nothing new really, aside from the fact that, yeah, I just encourage everyone, keep your expectations in check. Like, you saw all those third-party supporters. Well, we saw basketball from 2K, so that's Take-Two, so we're probably not going to get Red Dead. You know, you saw Bethesda's game, which is a 5-year-old RPG, and we didn't see, Dishonored or Doom or anything like that. Nothing current. Warner Brothers was a partner, and that could just be Lego. We saw Activision, that could just be Skylanders. We didn't see Deep Silver, for example, and they've got Agents of Mayhem coming, which is a big AAA game. You've got all these developers. So I encourage people to keep their expectations in check. The Switch is not going to be as powerful as Xbox One or PS4, so keep that in mind. Don't get carried away because you're probably only going to be disappointed. Better to have your expectations blown than for them to be falling short. That's all I got. Have a great week, guys.
Cool. All right, we'll see you.
I was expecting something a little more like a superhero speech at the end of the movie when he has to get the troops amped up that we might die out there, but we will stand for justice. And it's more like, guys, Dr. Doom might win. He might rub our faces all over the pavement, and at least we'll still be wearing our Spidey suit. I hope, but I like it.
All right, find me on Twitter at Paul Salon. See you next week.
See you next week, Elia.
Was that someone talking in the background of your chat or his?
It's dead silent on my end, my man. So
I don't even know why I asked you. He's the one who lives in the dorm. It makes more sense.
It's an interloper. It's an interloper. Mike snuck in here secretly, and we don't even know. And he's eating popcorn, waiting for his chance.
He went to Eli's dorm and is eating popcorn in the back.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey guys, I made it." You're like, "What the heck?"
Just like Mike to just sit quietly the whole time, Totally.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, what do you want to say, man? What's your? Well, I got to hear. What do you're typically. This is how I perceive you. This is
interesting.
Wrong. Nobody. Everyone perceives themselves differently than others perceive them, it seems.
Yeah.
The way I perceive you is you're often somewhat of a pessimist, but you're also, when it comes to Nintendo, that is, but you're also still loyal. And you're kind of down on stuff they do a little more than I am, where I always feel like I have to keep myself from being a total fluffer and being like, I love it no matter what they do. They're awesome. You're beautiful. I love you, Miyamoto. I mean, maybe that's not how I come off, but to me, I feel like a lot of times you're more worried about things. So that's what I'm really curious about. What are Matt's worries here? What's your biggest, make it or break it? Cause I was giving the example. I know one of my friends, that's why I was harping on that a lot. Cause we got into a big argument about it the other day, that he's such a Steam head. He's so into Steam. And what he loves about Steam is that his games are his forever, and that he can take them wherever he goes. And he doesn't have to spend a lot of new hardware and all that kind of stuff. He has to get a new computer every now and then, that kind of thing. But
so he doesn't have to spend money.
and he doesn't like to spend money, and and it's to his credit. He's just that aside, he's voicing an opinion that probably a lot of people share, where he's very, very bewitched by this Switch mindset, is what I always accuse him of. I'm like, dude, you're like brain controlled by it. Like, I am by Nintendo, I grant it. You're mind controlled by the way Switch operates. Like, you want Nintendo to basically, Steam. I said the wrong thing. Like you want Nintendo to be Steam, like where all your games are yours forever. End of sentence. And he is admitting it. And he was basically saying, and he's not diehard Nintendo, but he's big Nintendo fan. Mm-hmm. And he's one of my good gaming friends. Always, he's bought, I think, every Nintendo system, probably, maybe not GameCube, but I think everything else.
Wow.
And he, and he said, so he's a fan, like throughout his life. But he was saying, I'm not buying Switch if I don't get to keep my games. And we kind of had something similar to the debate you and I just had. Like, we were going back and forth. I was saying the kind of things, in fact, devil's advocate, that you were saying and Eli were saying, like, there's technological hurdles, man. You can't expect it. And I was saying, no, I get it. Like, that, like, simple games and smaller games, definitely. You should definitely be able to, like, re-download all your SNES and NES games and, like, indie games that don't use a second screen. You should be able to get those again. They should give you a code, if nothing else. If it's a wonky solution, whatever, I don't care. That it's not just easy like a library where it just ports over. I grant that might be too much to ask, but like a code where you get a code in your inbox on your Wii U and it's like, okay, I can re-download Guacamelee, for an example of a game that would be like, has been on a lot of systems and shouldn't be a big problem to port to a new system, a bit, in quotes, big problem. But he was drawing that line in the sand. He was sitting there saying, if it doesn't have it, at least in some form, I guess is what he's saying, for backwards compatibility for my digital stuff, I'm out. I'm not buying it. I'm not fucking, excuse my language. I'm not, now we just got an explicit rating. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna fall for it again, because Nintendo's got to get with the times where my games on my phone are my games on my phone forever, and my games on my Steam are my games on my Steam forever. Nintendo can't do this to us again. Like, they can't keep us in this box where the only reason they get revenue is because they got this loyal fan base that are stupid who will pay them again and again for the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I was glad to hear you say you're more in my court, where I think something like, if they're going to release this pretty upgraded version of Splatoon or a major update to Mario Kart, that they handle it more like a DLC type situation, where this is a big update, guys. So it's $19.95 if you want it day one. This is like Mario Kart 8.5, and you pay us, but you don't pay us full freight. And then and then there you go. You're all set. I want to hear, do you have fears like that, lines in the sand like that, or the things that are really concerning to you, about this Switch that are like, would make you not buy it on day one, or give you more of a cautious position where you're like, I don't know, I don't know if I'm going to be a guy who's supporting this or not. Is there anything like that for you?
So to start off, I think you have a pretty good an accurate representation of myself. Pessimistic, but obviously I still like these games and whatnot. I don't think there's really anything they could. I'm gonna sound like a blind fanboy, but I don't think there's really anything they could do that would make me not want to buy it, because it's a Nintendo console, so I know I'm gonna get like X amount of quality games from franchises that I love. So on that portion alone, I know I'm gonna have some base level of entertainment out of it, just from specific franchises alone. So they basically got me by the balls there, but
explicit warning.
Yeah.
Now we got balls.
Hey, we got pretty nasty last week, feeling each other up and whatnot. I don't know, because the Wii U.
What are the biggest ones that would piss you off? I mean, if there's nothing straight up that would make you not buy it, like, that's fair. Like, I don't think you're a blind fanboy for being that way, because fanboy is different. You're certainly not that. That means you defend anything they do blindly, and you all rationalize everything. You certainly do not do that. Yeah. You're saying, I like Nintendo, I'm going to get this system. I want to try it no matter what, because it's fun. It's going to be fun to try out, even if it ends up, sucking, like, it's still going to be fun because it's Nintendo, and that's that. That's cool. What are the things then that are like the ones that are going to piss you off the worst? Like, what could they really screw up here, or really, really drop the ball on, like, what is it for you?
So, as far as digital is concerned, I expect all the retro games to be able to carry over. I mean, Wii U did it with Wii. Like, you had to pay some stupid fee, which was just outright dumb. But I mean, they did it, so I would... Like, there are games that are like 30 years old, for crap's sake. Like, I would expect them to carry them over. I don't see that much of a problem. We already discussed Wii U and 3DS. 3DS is... They haven't really... I'm kind of surprised that people would bring that up. I mean, just because it runs on cartridges doesn't mean, like, it's easy to change over. I know they did the DS on the Wii U, but those games are pretty old, so I think it's kind of a different comparison. So I think the digital stuff, for the most part, will carry over. I don't really know how much of a discount they'll give you for Mario Kart and all those other things. I wouldn't be surprised if they expect you to just pay full price and not offer anything. But I think my main concerns are the power of it. And I know a lot of people kind of harp on this a lot, but if they really want to get out of the niche status of only a handful of people buy Nintendo consoles, like, oh yeah, only 10 million people buy this, the Wii U or this or that, like, they really have to have power that's on par with the other systems just to be able to get ports. They don't have to go for, PS Pro levels or Scorpio, because those are, like, for a specific kind of, I don't know, the mass majority of people aren't going to buy them. It's for a specific person who wants a game to run at 60 frames per second rather than 30. Like, it's not going to have exclusive games, at least for, like, several years as far as I'm concerned. It's a higher end version. It's still going to run the same games. All the games have to run off the basic, Xbox One, but they have to be able to meet that they have to be able to meet that level at least, so that we can get these other games. Otherwise, they're just going to be in the same situation where someone's going to look at this console, be like, hey, what games can I play on it? Can I play the new Fallout or this or that? No? Okay, well, screw that. It's going to have significantly less, options or games for me to play. I know Nintendo is like, well, we're not about power, we're about the games, but you have to have power to have all of the other games. So they kind of go hand in hand. Like, you're kind of like I've said this time and again, but what's the average schmuck gonna buy? A console that has 99% of the games that are advertised and that their friends are playing, or the 1% of games? The 1% of games where you either have to like a lot of Nintendo franchises, or else it's not really going to be worth it as much. That's the big thing. A problem I see them facing.
You say all that, and you point toward the power and I guess what we call the triple A's for the big guys to be able to compete on that level.
Yeah.
I tend to see it. This is just speculation based on kind of their behavior, putting it together with the way the market runs these days, but almost looping back to like trends I see in some of my friends that I was mentioning before. I could see Nintendo trying to recreate themselves with leaving that door open. We've got a system that's powerful enough, and hopefully a development, an OS, everything like that like is easy to develop for the third parties who want to come on board. If you want to bring your Battlefields or you want to bring your Red Deads over here, okay, the door's open and it's not too difficult, and the system is fairly straightforward. You don't have to develop for a second screen, all that kind of stuff. That'd be fine to leave that door open, but I could see envisioning themselves more like a Steam type service with the Nintendo as the AAAs. Like, so we've got our AAAs, and in fact, they're exclusives. We got the Metroids. We hope, we got the this, we got the that, all the big franchises. Those are our big tent poles. Those are our big Marvel universe of like the Nintendo world. And then also we're like a Steam box that is just like, okay, and all the indies dump their games on here. We're not talking the big guys. We're not talking the big Sony and the Xbox Bone games. We're talking, all the little stuff, the Rocket Leagues of the world, that like really blow up, and like that, yeah, we're seen as a viable competitor in a market like that, where we get a piece of the action and our system, and we sell systems. And then those people also have the choice and hopefully the desire to buy the new Mario games at full price, where we really make our bread and butter, and we keep our system alive that way by like having lots of games, but a different set of games, with this undercurrent, with a baseline of like the stuff that's out there that's really capturing, the markets, all the phone games, all the portable, telephone games, all the stuff that's on Steam, that if that stuff could just come over easily, which they've been pretty good about ish on Wii U, and they've gotten better is a better way to put it. There's a fairly steady stream of like okay to decent like third party smaller games that you can download on the Wii, on the eShop on a daily basis,
Yeah.
So, and they're pushing that stuff with their like indie sales and all that kind of stuff that they've been pushing lately. So just a thought, when you talk about the power, I think, yeah, like, but I think it's a lost cause. We've hit this nail before, you and I, like, where I think it's a lost cause to worry about Mass Effect on Wii U. I think it's a lost cause.
But here's the difference. You bring up exclusives, okay, but Nintendo did that with the Wii U. They had a lot of great exclusives, but it still didn't sell the console. Now, to be fair, those exclusives did come, I think, too little, too late. But the same thing still comes. Oh, I'll get the Wii when this game comes out. Hey, this big game came out. Are you gonna get it? Nah, I'll wait till Mario comes out. Then the sales will be good. Mario comes out, doesn't sell much better. Okay, wait until Mario Kart 8 comes out. Then the sales will be better. Okay, it does a little bit good. Still doesn't sell the console that much. Oh, wait for Smash Brothers. Oh, wait for Zelda. Oh, wait for this. Like a lot of waiting. Right. It doesn't do much.
Well, I think they're going to smash that nail on the head from day one. That's their goal. I mean, I think you're right. That's their goal. Day one, there's going to be a whole bunch of games. So we can't have all these people hemming and hawing and say, I'll get it when Zelda comes out. Well, guess what? Zelda came out. You know what I mean? Zelda's here, and you don't have a Wii U. So if you want to play it, here it is. And by the way, there's all these third parties and indies on there. Because like when I say exclusives, partly what I'm saying is Mario.
Yeah,
I know. Like when you said the way you were leaning, it sounded like you were talking things like Bayonetta. Obviously.
No.
Bayonetta.
No, I meant first party exclusives because it was the same situation. Sure. But I mean, the other thing is, like even the advertisement, they're clearly still aiming for people who want third parties. Like they have Skyrim in there, which is getting a remaster, and they have a sports game from EA. So they're still trying to, even in this one commercial or promo video, or whatever you want to call it, like they're still trying to advertise to those people, hey, we have third parties, but then you're not gonna have third parties down like. I
think personally the reason they do that in a commercial is because they know that's a big worry for us, and so they show it.
But I mean, you can't just
that doesn't mean you have to be the focus.
That's true, but you can't just be like the same with the Wii U. Like, yeah, the first year we'll get these third-party games, and then everyone will drop it because either it can't run it or there aren't enough sales for us there. So I don't know. I'm still of the mindset that random schmuck goes into the store, hey, here's these several consoles. This one has like a bunch of games coming out for it, ones that are all advertised on TV, ones that I'm interested, some maybe not, but there's plenty to choose from. And then you have a Nintendo console where it's like, well, there's a lot of great Nintendo titles, but if you don't like most of those exclusives, then there's not really much else there for you. Whereas with Sony, like, I don't care about most of Sony's first-party exclusives. The PS4 has some more interesting ones, but I mean, for the most part, I really like Ratchet and Clank. That I love. Uncharted, I'm kind of okay. Like, there's nothing on a Sony. Sony doesn't really have any exclusive that make me want to buy a console for its exclusives. But the fact that it has all these other games is why I would buy one, because there's so much more options. And I think that's what the average consumer is thinking.
I mean, I think when you say that, what it makes me realize is that they have these same debates we're having at a much higher level, business suits around on fancy tables, and they're debating the same stuff all day. And they probably went round about this, like, and it comes down to sort of a debate about cart before the horse or horse before the cart. And what they're betting the farm on here for this particular system is the big bet they're laying down is they thought to themselves, what does well for us? handhelds have in the recent history have done very well for us. Let's bet the farm on that. And if you build it, they will come, as they say. If you build it, they will come. If we build a system that we create the hype around it, that it's going to have third parties, if you build it, they will come. We might not have them out the gate. We might have like a handful, but if the system sells well, then they will come, and then,
Do you mean the customers or third parties?
Yeah, like the third parties
Okay.
and the big exclusives, they come later. We don't necessarily guarantee this at the outset, and we're gonna have a fallback plan. And it's like, okay, if it doesn't fly off the shelves like that, like we're hoping, well, what we're gonna be doing? We're gonna be doing what we've always done. We're gonna continue to make a lot of Nintendo games that are pretty great and push the system and see what happens. But if you build it, they will come. And we've done great with handhelds. We think there's still a space for us in the market for that, even though we're competing directly with iPhone and similar devices. We're well aware of that. We've addressed it in the media. We're not blind. We know you're playing games on your iPad, so we're coming at that market, but we still think there's a space for us there. And once we got the system out in enough hands, then the third parties of the world and the AAA developers want a piece of that action, just like they did on the Wii, just like they did on the original Wii. People made games for the original Wii because there were a lot of Wiis out there. Did they sell well? That's a great question, but they, people wanted to be a part of that action once those systems were in, billions of homes, so.
But I mean, there's two problems with this. One, if you build your console that doesn't have enough power, the third parties can't come, so that rules that out. But let's assume that it is strong enough to run third parties. You can't really come out of the gate with very few third parties and then expect people to latch on later, or the companies as well, because it's just not going to turn out well. If people assume that they're not coming in the first place, then it doesn't matter if they come out after, because they've already made up their mind about it. But to kind of move on from that, because I think I've repeated myself a bit, I think this console is going to be a very special case, because this should be bridging both their handheld developers and their console developers, like you were saying a bit. And like you said, the handholds have always done better. There's a chance that tacking on a console will make it worse instead of the handheld making it better, but that's besides the point. But I think the different and interesting thing about this console will be is we're going to have handheld franchises on this system in one place that wasn't really possible before. So your Pokemon, your Fire Emblem, well, it was on console,
gonna say,
but blah, blah, blah.
Are you trying to hint at Pokemon?
Well, they said they're going to make something Pokemon for NX. We don't know if it's an RPG or whatever, but excuse me. But you're going to have all of these developers that would just develop for only the 3DS or DS or handheld or whatever, a lot of the Japanese developers. And because this is the only system that they're going to be working with in the future, all of those games are going to come on here. So rather than being like, well, I got a couple of games on my Wii U now, but there's nothing on 3DS, or, well, I got a couple of games on my 3DS, but nothing for Wii U, that should hopefully fill in the gaps that they had problems with before, which is probably the one thing I'm the most excited about.
I just wanted to channel and go. Fucking period.
So
you just said it, brother. You just said it. That's the answer. That's the answer. Faster games, faster development, more games. More games that you can play, even if you didn't buy two systems.
And then the Nintendo, developers themselves, they don't have to make two versions of Mario Kart or two versions of Smash. It's just the one, and then they have several years more time to either make a new game or a new IP or extra content and do something else. So that'll definitely free up people's spaces. So I think that's the one thing that we can't really gauge too much just from looking at the system. It'll be something that we'll notice like a year into it or 2 years into it or something. So that'll be the wild card of this system, how that all affects the console. Because what could happen is the console isn't powerful enough to have third parties, but they have a steady stream of games from all of the other developers that it somewhat makes up for it and makes it this a little bit more interesting console. I was kind of hoping the Wii U was going to be the home for Japanese games, whereas the others were focusing more on Western games. That didn't end up being the case for the most part, but I don't know, maybe that could be the case for this, whereas maybe they don't get the Western third parties, but because they have, the handheld developers, which are mostly Japanese, those will be over here and we'll get those games, and this will fill a different kind of audience, because there's enough games in it. I don't know. That's my thoughts on
You're here, man. No, I think I can see a time. I play games slow enough and I have enough diversified interests because of like loving to play my older systems that like I have a backlog, when it comes to my Nintendo, both my systems. I'm going on a trip this week and I'm looking forward to like playing my 3DS for like several hours on a couple flights because I'm like, well, I've been neglecting you, like I have some great games on there that need some attention, and I'm looking forward to it. Haven't touched them, and other than like a couple train rides here and there across the city, barely been playing my 3DS. And I got 2 games I haven't unwrapped that I downloaded when they were on sale. Which, by the way, Human Resource Machine is on sale on Wii U right now, made by the guys who made World of Goo. And I know their last game before that, Little Inferno, wasn't everybody's cup of tea, and I haven't played the new one yet. But I wanted to point it out. I thought of it this week because I bought it and I downloaded it for my backlog. But those guys, if you like World of Goo, they have that weird sense of humor in their games. So just quick side note there for Wii eShop, since there's not a ton of new games right now to play. There's something out there you might want to check out that if you overlooked it, because I know I loved World of Goo and Inferno. Okay, it was unique. Was it a game? I think we've debated about that before. I don't know if that was even a game, but it was something.
It was like a Newgrounds type of Flash game. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was something. It was something. You know what I mean? But anyway, I wanted to point that out quick and not get too far distracted that that's out there this week.
Yeah, no, thanks, because I have that on, I have a couple of games on my wish list, and that was one of them, and because I did a bunch of programming through high school and even in college, so that kind of appealed to me, that, logical, mathematical thing.
Yeah, those guys are great.
Pretty cool.
Those guys are funny and great with their sense of humor. That I just wish they made more games, because I'm like, wow, I just love what you do. There's another thing to plug is that they have a whole project that the name is going to escape me, but maybe you've heard of it. They have a thing that's like, I don't know if they're still running it, but they were last time I checked. It's like a coding contest website where one of the guys from Henry Hatsworth on the DS is involved in it, and I think the guys from World of Goo are part of it. If you Google around for it, it's like the Experimental Gameplay Project is, I think, the name of it. Let me just Google that quick. I hate doing this.
Fine.
I hate doing that live on the podcast, but I want to make sure. Yeah, it's called the Experimental Gameplay Project. Let's see if they're still updating it. Yeah, it's updated. It looks current. And it's a group of indie developers running a friendly competition every month. It's on PC. Usually you have to have a PC to play the games. But some of them will run on Mac. It kind of depends. I'm not too familiar with why. I think they use different engines and things to make the games. But they're neat because they're like it's literally coding contests. And people make clever little funny games. Sometimes they're broken as crap, and you can play it for a few minutes and be like, this is broken. But they give them a theme, and it looks like this month's theme was construct. It was and so it's like simple concepts. Like they'll give them a simple set of rules of like explosions, destructions, and tearing things down are common themes. But how we explore the other end of the spectrum, make some games about assembling, building, and constructing. And that was like the theme for the month. And then there's like 10 games on the front page you can play for free that are just like little things that somebody built. So, those guys do really cool stuff. Didn't mean to derail the discussion about the Switch, but it just popped into my head when I was thinking of games that you could possibly even play on a Wii U or anything else these days.
Yeah.
So,
that's fine, because we were talking about some indie games you should play before the NX comes out last week. So
yeah. There you go. I was making a reference. Yeah, totally.
I mean, it's still topical.
Not just wandering off in outer space.
Yeah.
Well, what else we got, Matt? What else is in the news about the Switch that you got to get off your chest? Because I know these things weigh heavy on you. You worry a lot about Nintendo and Nintendo's future. But I like hearing your opinions here.
Yeah, it's mostly just it's really disheartening to hear that from the not leaked specs. I guess it's leaked. whatever, from rumors or leak specs of the console, that it's not really going to have the power to run third-party games, which immediately puts up a lot of red flags, because it's like, what are you doing? Like, you're going to repeat the same thing again. Like, why are you doing this? You're killing me. Like, even if I don't play, all the games, it's like, I know this isn't going to work with most people. It's just, that aggravates me. I guess hardware, storage space is going to be interesting for digital games and whatnot.
I've been wondering
like
a lot about that.
Call of Duty.
I've been
Apparently,
wondering a lot about storage space. Like, what do you think about that? To stop you for a second, like, how's this going to work? Like,
so
where are all these going to live?
I
Like, where are they going to live? Like, all my games, like, they can't be all on that little thing I carry around, can they?
So from the leak specs, or what, I'll just say they're leaked because whatever. From those specs, apparently it's going to have 32 gigabytes internal, which is not a lot. It's the same as the Wii U. That's a mistake. There probably is, like the 3DS, going to be an extra SD card slot where you can put in, more games for more storage. Maybe the base could have, more storage. There are USB things on it, so some people have proposed that maybe you download the whole game to a hard drive near the dock, and then you can offload like a section of it on the console itself for when it goes portable. I don't know technically how that would really work, if that's possible, or if developers would do it, because that'd be kind of annoying. Like, here, segment your game into pieces so that if someone wants to take it off, they can, take off a bit of it. Like, I don't really know how that's going to work. It doesn't sound like a solution.
That would have been my impression. That would have been a possibility for me before they showed it. But the feeling I'm getting is, no way. The whole game is the whole game.
Yeah,
and it's not segmented in any way. That the base station is just a connection to the TV. So when you say possibly the memory in the base station, I don't even think that's what they're aiming for. I think
I just mean there's USB ports on it, so you could potentially put a hard drive in it. But you're thinking basically one
that game. Like let's just speculate for a second. A game like Zelda, it's going to be gigantic. Like, it's going to be many, many gigabytes.
Mm-hmm.
Most likely would be something you'd play on a card, and then for like maybe the same way. Well, the same way. Maybe I'm biased. That's why I'm almost asking. Like, the way I manage my Wii U is most of my games are on disc, and it was only last year, I think, that I finally gave in and bought I bought what you're not supposed to buy. I bought like a flash memory stick and plugged it in. And I know that that's doomed to fail at some point, that someday I'm going to wake up and all my save files are going to be gone, and I'm going to have to re-download my games, because they don't recommend using one of those because they're prone to fail if they're not powered hard drives or whatever, which also are prone to failing, but for different reasons. So like, and if they're not going to have like a standalone hard drive solution, or quote in quotes, I know it's not a popular solution, like for it, that will, unless you're speculating, maybe there's some external storage slots, like external, internal card, whatever, on the base station.
I mean, the 3DS has it, so I would kind of expect it.
Oh, right. Yeah, you can greatly expand your memory. You're right. But those games are much smaller in the end than a full console game. So then I wonder where we're at. That gets into your worries, that it's like, well, what if Mass Effect 4 wants to come to Wii Switch?
So here's the thing. From the documents or whatever, or from rumblings, they have two different cards, 32 gigabytes and 64 gigabytes, to put your game on. Eli would have more knowledge about this because I don't have a PS4 or Xbox One, but from what I've heard, most games are 50 gigabytes, and sometimes they unload a bit more when you install them because they're compressed. So I don't know how many games will or won't fit on it, but an example is the new Call of Duty comes with a remastered of Modern Warfare 1, for example, and that is going to be like 130 gigabytes. they're not going to make a 130 something gigabyte SD card. I mean, 120 or more technically exists. It would cost an arm and a leg, so they're not going to do it. So that already brings up problems of just putting the game on a cart at all.
Right.
So
right. I mean, that sounds like an extreme. That sounds like an extreme situation. Yeah, it's good to bring it.
But I mean,
that's like basically 2 games. That'd be like,
oh yeah,
well, wait, we want to like give you Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2. Well, the answer is we give you 2 game cards. You know what I mean? Like just like they did with like here you go.
The problem with the Call of Duty one in particular is, I think they said you have to have both games installed if you want to play the remastered game, because they basically want you. They don't want to sell the remastered game separately because they want to use that as leverage to make you buy the new game, which a lot of people don't want. So I don't see them putting it on 2 cards. Yeah, I don't see them putting it, if they were going to bring it on here, I don't see them putting it on 2 cards, because then someone will, sell the main game and then keep the original one, which is, what they didn't want in the first place. I think you'd have to though in that situation on a system like the limits we're talking about, just like Bayonetta, it's like we can't put this on one disc, that's that, so. No, they probably could have with Bayonetta, but they just felt like putting it on 2 because, I mean, I think the Wii U discs have 25 gigabytes or 50, I forget. A normal Blu-ray disc is like 50 gigabytes, and Bayonetta definitely didn't take up 50 gigabytes. So,
okay, well, fair enough.
Because Nintendo's made like dual game packs before where they put in 2 boxes or whatever because they know people like the boxes. Like even though there's no benefit to them, they still do. I think that's just the reason for doing it. But
that's true. Yep, that's true because that's how Star Fox came packaged. So you're on right. They could have put Guard on the same disc. You're right. Yeah. So, but good point.
I think Call of Duty is a rare example, but still, I don't know. I think, like I said, I think most games or most AAA are 50 gigabytes, but the fact that they install and that they're compressed means there's more data on it, and I don't know how much more data that is, so I don't know if they would fit on 64 gigabyte carts. So that is also a problem. And they're definitely not going to buy a 128 gig cart because that's going to be, too expensive. So that's a problem. Battery, people have said it should be somewhere between 5 hours at least to 10 at most. I don't know, because when you take a handheld on the go, like, how much do you really expect to be playing it? Like, I'm not trying to downplay that they should get away with having as low battery as possible, but at the same time, like, how much do you really use your handheld when you go out? Like, when I take it on a commute, it's an hour there, an hour back. That's 2 hours. Like, I'm not going on a road trip. I'm not going on a train. I don't expect to, play it for like 12 hours long.
I don't know. That's fair what you're saying for you, but it's important to me, and I think it's important to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not
here's another thing to consider. Well, no, it's interesting to hear your counterpoint. You're saying, look, people, get a grip. I mean, I make that argument a lot of times. I find it amusing when people whine that a game they bought was only 10 hours. And I'm like, 10 hours? Do you know how many hours you're going to be alive? Well, that's plenty of hours then. Yeah. You should not be that worried. Like, you're going to be dead soon. So don't cry that the good game you played that was fun was only 10 hours. Go outside. I know I sound like the Nintendo Wii warning you.
Yeah, really.
Long. But seriously, people, like, get a grip. Like, I know that your last RPG you played was 80 hours plus expanded DLC content. Like, it's like, so what? Earthbound takes you like 10 hours to finish if you play it like at a reasonable pace, and it's an awesome game. Enjoy it. Like, just for a random example, like I get hung up on that. So you're making a similar argument about a little bit like how long does the power have to be? But that's a fair point if you're talking about just a handheld, which I don't agree with for the record. A flight is, an average flight is often like 2 to 4 hours. Like,
yeah, that's going to take longer. But I mean, do you not have an outlet nearby that you can charge in or not? I haven't
Only some-
been on planes enough to say.
Only some planes have outlets, and like
Okay.
I'd say half and half these days. Like it's new to me. I will say that. Like it's getting more common, but like a lot of airlines fly older planes that haven't been upgraded yet. So you're a lot of times in a place where you don't have a battery and you're flying across the country. That takes like 4 to 5 hours. Even domestic, to fly somewhere. And I'm not saying that's the only reason people would use it. I mean, car trips, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, it is fair because they put it in the in the promo video. Like
that you're
using it on the
traveling,
plane,
right?
so
You're
that's
playing
fair.
it's on the go, right? Yeah. I mean, but here's the real one. Like, I mean, beyond all that, like, first of all, you have to look at it from two ways: the handheld version and the home version. But man, I don't play as many games as a lot of people. But if I play my Wii U, I play my Wii U a lot. I have no idea what my final play count hours on it at this point are, but I'm going to be willing to say there's more than 1,000 hours on the system at this point if I sit and think about all the games I've played, and especially the big ones that I've played for plus 100, several hundred for some games. And my gamepad's holding up okay. I still get about, I'd say, 2 hours unplugged, maybe less, especially if it's a game that uses the gamepad a lot. But it starts, that red light, that blinking red light comes on at about an hour and a half, I'd say, to 2 hours. And that's annoying. And anything less than that would be super annoying, especially if it's out of the box. Because, I mean, think about it in a year, 2 years down the road when you've been using it and the battery starts to lose its life. That's unacceptable. If it's your main carry around 3DS or your even if you're going to play it at home, when you don't even dock it. You could just be sitting around your house playing. And it's worse than an iPhone where you got to plug the sucker in after 30 minutes, to play a game. I mean, that's unacceptable. It's gotta, they gotta, I'm praying. For me, it's perhaps the biggest worry for me personally. I'm if this is my handheld, it's gotta have some power. I'm a nerd. I'm a Nintendo fanboy. I've got 3 or 4 of those carry along cell phone batteries that you can plug in with a USB. I have 3 of those in my backpack, which I got to write myself a note right now for my trip this week, to pack those, for my trip, because I'm flying across the country, for a 4-hour flight 2 ways. And I want to play some Terraria, and I want to play that, Code of Princess that I downloaded when it was on sale, and, some other games I got lined up. And yeah, I'll probably play my 3DS at least 2 hours out of those 4, each way. So. It's gotta last, so I hear I like that you have a counterpoint on that you're a little less concerned because you're saying I might use this more on the couch or for short trips.
Yeah, I forgot about using it at home while it's not docked because my line was thinking was, well, if I'm playing it at home, it's going to be docked and it's going to charge and I won't have to worry about the battery. But I guess there are scenarios where people might want to use it undocked. And that reminds me of the Wii U, and I hate it so much that basically every time I use it, I have to charge in the dumb thing, which is a pain in the ass. It's just stop it. I didn't even use it. It's dead already. The console's on standby, and somehow the controller still drains the battery or whatever. So
my wife will fall asleep watching Netflix, and my wife will leave the tablet laying while she's falling asleep watching Netflix, and then I go to play Splatoon and it's dead, and that happens to me. And if I had kids, God help us, you know what I mean? It would be dead all the time. It would just be because kids don't remember to put things on chargers, and it would be so, I mean, we already acknowledge it doesn't look like they're aiming this at kids, although, there are going to be households with kids having this thing, and it's battery life. Top 3 concerns for me, and it's the one I after people started talking about it the most. It's the one that stuck with me, where I was yeah, bro, that looks like a big screen, and they did pretty well with the 3DS. My 3DS lasts pretty long, smaller screens but less power,
and it's
probably less.
3D.
Yeah, and I turned the 3D off, but I turned the 3D off to save battery, we all learned. I'm always doing that if it's I'm in a situation like a plane.
But I mean, they had to make it so that if someone has 3D on all the time, that it still has a decent battery life.
Yeah, and it holds up, but you can tell the difference because I'm always Wi-Fi off, 3D down. If I know I'm not going to be out of dock anytime soon. And frankly, lately I use it for more retro games than anything. I'm not playing high tech 3D Kid Icarus stuff. I'm playing more like, like Wario Land games and, things that you can only use one screen basically. Anyway, and I'm like, like I love my portable systems. I don't care. I'm not picky. I'm not only playing the new stuff on it. So, the battery life is pretty darn good for those. It's barely touches it,
So question, how would you react if they had, a battery pack at launch that like doubles the battery life?
Like if it was like one of those like third party companies, or if it was Nintendo, like straight out the gate.
Oh, I guess either or. Maybe
I
let's say Nintendo.
It's a better question. Like if it's Nintendo, how would I react? Because the third parties, I'd say I'd want to wait and read reviews, and they're always overpriced, and then you're not sure if they're going to work right. So I'd be suspicious, and that's not a very good answer. Like I'm not a hater like a lot of people are. If they I'd rather have a company know they have a problem and address it and be adults about it and say, here's the deal, and explain it to me like an adult. Like, we put the system together. Battery life is a huge challenge for every device out there. Look at that smartphone in your hand and think about how many times it's run out of power, when you needed it to be alive. Like, we're aware, but the system would have been super bulky. We wanted to keep it slim and trim and keep it an accessible price for everybody. So for the true hardcore gamers who expect to be traveling long distances and need more battery life, we've developed this add-on, and it's a reasonable price. I have no problem. Me personally, I have no problem. I just like being treated like an adult with my purchases. Like if you explain it to me why I need it and what your side of the argument is, then I'm receptive as heck. I feel like that's the thing where a lot of these companies miss the boat because they just drop things on you. Like, wasn't there a famous issue with was it the PSP or was it the Vita with the memory cards, and they were like branded memory cards?
Yeah, like, they were expensive.
Yeah, and they were super expensive. And however they marketed that, they must not have handled it right, because I remember hearing the outcry that people were angry because it seemed really stupid.
Yeah.
And
you basically couldn't use any other memory stick, so it's not like, oh, I could buy a Nintendo battery or I could buy a third party. It's like you buy a Sony thing and you only buy a Sony thing, and this is the price, and you're gonna like it. Like,
yeah.
So there were no options.
And if there was a reason for that, if I was a Sony kid, and there was a reason they had to do that they could explain it to me and say, we had to use this kind of architecture, and it therefore called for this special modification of a memory card to work. And this is the price because, well, it doesn't mean it would justify. It doesn't mean I would like it, but I would be a lot more receptive that I'd say, okay, you didn't just try to do a money grab. Like, Nintendo does it. Let's not make no mistake. Like, Nintendo purposely changes the fitting of their AC adapters on every device, so you can never use the AC adapter from some other thing. Like, the last time you could,
it's like Apple with the stupid lightning cable.
Exactly. I mean, well, that's a little different. Like if you're talking about Thunderbolt and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I think they've had a couple of different.
Thunderbolt, those kind of things. I think those are like, I don't know a lot about it, but I think there's a bit of a technological switch going on there that they needed to change it. I don't know though. I'm not very versed in that. But like, if you go back, like I have a Super Nintendo sitting here right next to me, and you can sometimes use the cables from older Nintendos in swap with each other. They don't totally work right. And I can't quite remember which ones work with each other, but the fittings are still the same. And then that ended, as we all know. Like that ended. Like, you can't use your 3DS plug with your DS or your DS Lite with your DS. It's like you got to have that new AC adapter, and that's a cash grab. We all know it is, but it's a small one. It's like, okay, well, it's an adapter. It's like the Chinese market, they come out with the cheap knockoffs, and it's like $250 on eBay plus shipping. And you get it a month and a half later, but it's still only $250. Or you get the Nintendo branded one for $10, and it's $10, whatever. It's like if you're really in a hurry, whatever. But it's like, that's a little catch. Yeah, when you get into these things where it's like a memory card or something like that, and when the question you ask, like if there's a battery extender, it depends on the price and how they handle it. For me, it's one of those things where it's like, if it truly made my life better, well, Nintendo's a hobby I greatly enjoy, and I'm going to buy it. And I'm not someone who's going to sit around and bitch about money, because I'm fortunate enough to have a good job and make money and be able to afford the things I like, save up my money and then buy the things I really enjoy. So for me, I would be like, well, I want it, because I love Nintendo and it's going to be fun. That's it, so I wouldn't cry about it, but at the same time, don't bring out a battery center that's $100 and expect me to smile. That's a different one. So anyhow. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how that would go over, or how I would
Not
like it
good.
either. Um,
Not good. Not good is what I predict. People like to get angry about stuff, so, but,
yeah, it could. Yeah, I don't know because I mean they did release one for the Wii U, but at that point I wasn't using the Wii U enough to justify buying the battery rather than just plugging it in. But
mhm.
at the same time, if battery is a big concern, even though people might see it as well, you're just trying to chip me out of money, this, and that. If there's the option at the front, like it may dispel some of the criticisms, like, yeah, you'd have to suck up and pay a bit more money, but at least you have the option from the get-go rather than, dealing with it for a year or 2 years and
Yeah,
then getting something. So
yeah.
I guess it's just all how it's pushed out
How
there.
it's handled. It's how it's
Before,
handled. Yeah.
yeah, before we go, I just want to briefly talk about Mario. I guess really quickly. What did you think of the 6 seconds we saw
But what did I think of the 6 seconds of what? I'm
of
sorry.
the Mario game?
No opinion.
Really?
Because it could just be like demo. Like it could just be like who knows what it is. No strong opinion. I mean, I know people reacted well to it. But to me, I've played virtually every Mario game there is except for like Mario's Hotel or whatever on the Philips CDI and that kind of crap. But like they blur together a little bit for me. I have to be honest. So like when I saw it, I actually didn't know for sure if it was a new game or if it was like scenes from 3D World. Honest to God, like I didn't know. Like I like neat. Look, Mario. Like surprise, surprise. There's a Mario game, And I was like, it looked cool. But what did you think?
A lot of people are saying it's got like a 64 Galaxy thing. I at first thought it was more like 3D World, even though the camera isn't the same perspective. I don't know what made me feel that way. Just I guess the behind the shoulder, like directly behind him
Yeah,
rather than like floating above at an angle or whatever. Minuscule things. It's 6 seconds long.
it's six
It
seconds.
it,
Yeah, I was gonna
it
say there's no clue.
I can't tell crap from it. I'm just making
Yeah, there's
assumptions,
no clue.
but
And the
no,
camera and the camera in both those games changes perspective, so you
yeah,
still don't have a
yeah,
clue.
in the trailer for 3D World, when there's the four of the cats running on like the grass plains, it goes behind
Right,
them, a bit of an
right,
angle, but it's still behind them. So like, who the heck knows?
absolutely.
This may be a hub world. This may just be a part of a level. Game Explained did, crazy in-depth analysis as they usually do, pointing that there's like a beacon on there, so maybe you can set waypoints, which would allude to obviously a bigger world because you wouldn't need waypoints if it's a level to level thing like 3D World.
Yeah,
I don't know. It could really be either thing, but from what I saw, like I really like it just because like oh man, you got like this little Mexican town with like cactus people and all this stuff. It really has like its own flavor to it, like its own little charm to it that I don't think some of their other Mario games have had for a bit. They've just kind of been, typical this level, desert, fire, water, grass, or whatever. This, I guess, would be the desert level, but it looks like there's something there that was missing before. Beauty and the Beast song. But I don't know. It looks like there's a little bit more life to it, and that's really good to see. And there's no way it's not a real game because they wouldn't have made a whole level like that just for a quick second, for a quick ad. I mean, the Splatoon or Mario Kart, they show one new character. Like that could have been a demo if you want to argue, but they're not going to make this Mario whole thing that's fake. So that's definitely part of a real game. It's just, I
sure,
guess
I
we'll see
suppose.
what it is.
I suppose I agree. I mean, like with a Mario game, like in development, things could change so much that I guess it depends on your definition. Like to me, that I'm like, well, yeah, we looked at like 6 seconds of like a level that might be building, like right now, or something like that. Like, I hear you. I think it probably is. It seems like everyone else is, so I'll just trust everyone. Like, yeah, there's a new Mario game. But I mean, is this news? Is this? Is
I
this
mean, it was
news
inevitable, but well, they haven't announced it, I guess. So
I just gotta say, is this news? There is a Mario game gonna come to Nintendo Switch, and we're discussing it.
hey, we've been dealing with rumors for like a year and a half. Anything
Yeah.
that's not a rumor is news at this point.
No, I feel you. I feel you, man. It's a good question. For
I
me, it was like For me, I mean, I was excited. You and I were Skyping back and forth a little bit during the announcements that morning, and
Yeah.
I was more intrigued on the walk away about seeing the Skyrim and stuff, because at first I didn't know what that was, and like you guys told me, oh, that's Skyrim, that's what that is, and it might be the remaster, and now that's not confirmed, but we know it's a possible thing. So to me, that kind of stuff's really exciting, because I don't get to play those games, because I kind of a purist about my Nintendo fanboyism. I just don't have time for the other systems. So like, for me, the defining criteria of what I get to play is what Nintendo bothers to let me play, you know, and I know that sounds ignorant to some people, but I just don't have enough time. Come live my life with me. You'll have a great time, and you'll see why. I don't have any time for like every video game that comes out, you know. So it's like, hey, Nintendo's a good filter for me, you know. Like I like having a system that kind of curates interesting games for me, and occasionally I get some cool surprises like that, you know. So that'd be cool. I'd love to play a game like that, try it out, and have some literacy for a modern AAA title of that nature, you know, and learn a little bit more about it, like firsthand. So that was for me kind of the more exciting moment. And of course, if my final word on the subject of Switch for the night would be my, you know, getting to see the chance that I'm going to play basketball video games on the basketball court with my bros. That was the moment for me. I was like, that's what I've always wanted.
Someone's like, here, pass me the.
What was that?
It's like someone's like, here, pass me the thing, the rock or whatever, and someone like looks over and throws their controller piece instead. They're like, ah, crap, I broke it. It's a million pieces.
No, you can't break it. It's a tiny Joy-Con. It's so tiny it would just bounce off the ground. You'd be like, it's a tiny little Joy-Con. I like it. It's so much fun. I love it. My big hands don't fit on it, but it's okay. So yeah, that's mainly what I was pumped about. I was pumped about my chance to get out at night. First of all, great idea. Go out in the middle of a city at night, down to the basketball courts, and then like hang out late at night. Great idea. Let me tell you, like you're gonna like be loving your time there, at least in a city like mine. Yeah. So I wouldn't recommend it. Like you're not gonna have your Nintendo Switch anymore. You're gonna make a lot of new friends really fast though.
Oh, there'll be Switch things coming out. Switchblades.
There'll be Switchblades, bro. I wish if it was only Switchblades.
I wish they called the grip Switchblades instead, because you know the I forget, Windows, they call, or the Xbox One or whatever they call it was the 360. Their old system they used to call like the little Windows blades. So I mean, and they were rectangular. This is rectangular, and it's called the Switch. Obviously, they're not going to do that, but
this is the humor podcast, people. You tune in for the joke, stay for the Nintendo news. Really, truly. So
yeah.
Good stuff.
All right, I think we'll end it there. The only thing I hope about this Mario game that we know literally like nothing about is I hope they don't pull a new Super Mario Brothers U on us, where in that game they showed off like this Van Gogh painterly level. It's like, oh man, this is really cool. I hope a lot of other levels are like this. It would make the side-scrolling game that's out of date now like really interesting. Nope, it was one level. So I hope they don't do this for just like, here's this cool little Mexican town with all these things and sombreros. It's like, nope, it's one level. I don't think it will, but
I feel like you're really invested in this thing if you would have actual disappointment from the 6 seconds not living up to like envisioning, you know, like
6 seconds disappoints a lot of people.
No, it's true. It's true. I'm not going to make the joke right there. So leave it alone. Explicit podcast not needed.
We're getting dirtier by the week.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Alright, I think we'll about end it there. Pardon me. Yeah, I'm Matt. You can find me at the Mango Viking on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I post weekly updates now on videos, and tomorrow I will be launching a new video, so stick out, well, I guess it'll be today by the time I post it, but stay tuned for that. And Unoclay, where can people find you?
People can find me at my IGN, still kicking around there as Unoclay1, and I am on the Nintendo Systems Networks as Unoclay, no digit one, so just Unoclay on Nintendo Network. So if you ever want to play Splatoon or Smash Bros or good games like that, Mario Kart with me on the lines, I'm always down to meet new people and play a few rounds. So we could always set something up. Matt's gonna put a picture of my Nintendo-related Halloween costume. So anyone who's made it through an hour and 36 minutes of this podcast and gets to the end here, this is your little teaser. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I mentioned it on former podcasts. But if you don't know, just tune in. There's a picture of my mostly finished costume that Matt's going to put up in the blog post on my IGN for this, which is under Shmuga9, S-H.
Yeah, SHMUGA9.
Yeah, there you go. Like on my IGN, or you can link to me on my IGN, and I could point you in the right direction if you're not friends with him on there. But you get like 1 or 2 new users on my IGN. That could be you. So.
And you're also on the Google Plus group, correct?
Oh yeah, we're on the Google Plus group. Yeah, that's.
Like IGN's dead, and I actually posted some comments that you've seen on the Google Plus group, so it looks lively. It's the My IGN Google Plus group. It is invite only, but I don't think they really turn down anyone anyway, so as long as you apply, someone will probably just let you in anyway. But yeah, that'll wrap it up for this week. You can find us at Just Another Castle on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, Podomatic, Destructoid, and IGN. You can send us comments or questions anywhere on those pages. So we'll see you next time and leave gaming to Nintendo.